Hello, this is Overlord Bo, and today I'll be covering the highly anticipated Royal Navy battleship, the Tier 7 Rodney. The Rodney is the sister ship to the Nelson, but it has an interesting twist on its quick cooldown heal and nuclear torps, which make it a lot more of a brawler than compared to the Nelson. Rodney will be available in both the premium shop and as a drop for D-Day containers starting on the 30th, and I'll be covering these at the end of the video. The build I have for the Rodney will be shown. It is a typical battleship build with the modules built into the guns and rudder due to how slow the rudder is. Now, the captain skills, I would take Cunningham to get the consumables when you get a kill. And since Rodney has a special heal with the fast cooldown, it's definitely worth to build into the heals as well as the anti-air perk to get your heals back faster. Moving on, let's talk about how good or bad the Rodney is. Now, for the hull, you get a 62,900 HP pool, which is a really high for a tier 7 battleships. The Citadel does sit high above the waterline, just like its sister ship, the Nelson. And if you have seen people playing that or played it yourself, you know that if you go broadside in that thing, you're going to be taking a lot of damage. So do not show broadside in this ship, or you'll be in a world of hurt. On this ship, instead of it having a super heal, it has a really fast cooldown heal of about 38 seconds, which heals around 11,000 damage. It's not as good as a super heal, but it's very good nonetheless because you also get an extra heal as well. So you're able to heal up to about 55,000 health, or 66,000 health you're able to heal if you get the Cunningham perk when you get a kill, which is very, 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 very good. For torpedo protection, you have a 19% protection, which could be worse, but with how many torpedo boats are going to be going against you in these matches, you're going to be suffering if you eat torpedoes, but that's normal for a tier 7 battleship. You have a 26mm bow / stern armor, 32mm upper side and deck armor. With this massive bow on this thing, it's very easy for battleships to overmatch and Citadel you through the nose. And with the side and deck armor, it's actually quite resilient with the 32mm. So it's very important for you to be angling when you're playing this ship. So pretty much take the note from the hull. It's fairly tanky as long as you don't show broadside and just sit bow in. If you're angled in this ship, like angling toward the enemy, you'll be pretty tanky with this ship. But if you show broadside or just sit bow in or just going aft, you're gonna be in a world of hurt. Moving on to the guns, you have 3x3 406mm guns, which use Russian battleship dispersion formula. Pretty much, if you've ever played the Russian battleships like the Kremlin or the Sinop, you have superior accuracy under 13 kilometers, but past 14 kilometers, the dispersion gets kind of wonky. This is why I was saying this ship is more like a brawling ship. It's going to do really good in those tier 7 and below matches or just tier 7. But if you get yourself into a tier 9 match, oh boy, you're going to be a world of suffering. But that's pretty much any tier 7 battleship. You put them in a tier 9 match, you're going to be in a world of hurt. You have a reload of 30 seconds, which is about pretty average for the tier. You do also have an 18-kilometer range, which is pretty short for a battleship. You do get good aggressive firing gun angles. Pretty much if you're pushing toward the enemy, you have some really good fire angles if you are pushing toward the enemy. But when you're kiting away, it's really bad. Pretty much the firing angle, if you're going at them like bow in, it's 25 off the bow, and if you're kiting away, it's 40 off of the stern. So definitely you want to be kind of pushing toward the enemy a lot of the time, and if you're kiting away, it may be better just to not use all your guns, just use a few of them, just so that you're not showing so much broadside when you're shooting. Now, you do also have a decent shell speed as well. And the HE shells do have a good fire chance, but otherwise, the HE shells are pretty much average damage. You do have somewhat weak AP shell damage, which are below average damage, but they are short fuse, which means that you are way less likely to overping cruisers, which is an amazing thing. Amazing. You're way more likely to Citadel or just to strip way more damage to cruisers, which is a huge plus. On this ship for secondaries, they are pretty weak, so don't bother investing them at all, even though you do want to be a lot closer with this ship than compared to the Nelson. Do not build into the secondaries. They are not worth it. It's a lot better to just focus on the guns. The guns are very usable, but they're strictly slightly worse than the Nelsons and can sometimes be underwhelming than compared to the Nelson. But overall, I still find them really good on their own, along with the nuclear torpedoes, which we're going to be talking about. These torpedoes have a 10-kilometer range that deal 29,000 damage per hit. They're pretty much the same setup as the St. Vincent. They fire only to the front and one per side. Now, these have a really good range and spannable with a 40-second reload. Overall, they're very effective in a close range fight, and they're the wiggly type of torps. So pretty much no matter where you're pointing them, they're going to be heading toward the target. So you can use that to your advantage if you're by an island. You can use those wigglies to kind of move them around the island. It can be really funny to see when you do it, but these torpedoes are really heavy hitters on the Rodney and should be used a lot in your engagements with this ship. For anti-air, you have really good short-range anti-air, but that's pretty much it. It can work against the average tier 6 CV player, but seal clubbers will ignore your anti-air as if it never existed, and you're just going to be cannon fodder at that point. That's why I would say I recommend building into the anti-air skill on the captain. It's going to make it where you're able to get your DCP back quicker and your heal back quicker, so you're able to have a little bit more of a fighting chance when dealing with a CV. Now for the anti-air submarine airstrikes, you do get the standard 9-kilometer range with 2 charges. You pretty much have to hope that the submarine is an idiot, or it'll be really hard to hit them. If you're dealing with a tier 6 sub, you're going to have a really fun time dealing with them. But if you're dealing with a tier 8 submarine, they're going to be way quicker and way harder to hit. For maneuverability, Rodney is one of the slowest battleships in the game. Even with the help of the speed boost, she's still slower than half of the tier 7 battleships. She's pretty much like the Vermont of tier 7. She's just really, really slow. You do also have a slow rudder shift as well. But otherwise, she has a really respectable turning radius, which is why I say you build into the rudder instead of propulsion in the modules. It makes it where you're able to turn a little bit quicker, which will help you be able to turn your guns faster as well when you're pushing toward the enemy. For concealment, your best surface concealment is 13.6 kilometers. It's not the best, it's not the worst. It's pretty average for tier 7 battleships. For the final stats of this ship is going to be the consumables. You do have a standard DCP with the immunity period of 15 seconds, which is pretty normal for British battleships of this tier. Now, the special part of this ship is its fast loading repair party and the speed boost. The fast loading repair party, you get an extra one, and you get half the cooldown of a normal repair party. So the reload's about 38 seconds if you build into the signals for it. It's very useful in constant combat situations, which is also why I recommend putting Cunningham on this ship, because if you do get a kill, you get an extra set of consumables, which means you get an extra heal and an extra speed boost, which you'll be able to use later on in the battles. Now, for the speed boost is a 15% speed boost. It doesn't make her fast in all means. It just means that the enemy simply can't walk away when you run them down. Because again, this ship is very, very slow. It's pretty much the Vermont of tier 7 battleships. It's just extremely, extremely slow. So my overall opinion of the Rodney is pretty much this. Rodney is a really kind of weird battleship. She looks like she'd be a rushing, torping battleship with her torpedoes and speed boost, but she's way too slow to do this and doesn't have any secondaries to back her up on damage. So even though Rodney, you want to get close with her, you still have to be very careful, as smart battleships can Citadel Death Striker through the nose. So you have to play angled with it. You can't just sit bow in or go broadside. You have to be at an angle to make it way harder for battleships to be able to Citadel her. Now, her guns are definitely serviceable. They're not the best. They're not the worst. They're just normal. Like, they're good. They're not like fantastic. They're not absolutely terrible. they're in that average to good area for the guns. I still like the guns, but compared to her counterpart, the Nelson, the guns are definitely inferior in comparison to the Nelson. But her quick cooldown heal and the fact you get an extra really pulls through a lot in the battles. At the same time, though, you do get those nuclear torpedoes, which is why you want to get within about 3 to 7 kilometers of the enemy, where you can just spam those nuclear torpedoes and do a lot of damage. Now, just like the Nelson, this ship is going to only really have a good time when you're down tiered or at the same tier as your enemy. But because if you're up tiered and you get put into a tier 9 or 8 match and you're putting those big maps, yeah, good luck. You're going to be suffering just like the Nelson. You're not going to have a fun time at all. Pure unadulterated chaos isn't going to be fun time at all for you. You're going to be suffering in those higher tier matches. But that's pretty normal for tier 7 battleships. If you put them in a tier 9 environment, you're just going to be doing nothing but spamming HE, being at max range. You can't get close to those tier 9 battleships at tier 7. If you do, you're just done. Those tier 9 battleships will absolutely wreck any tier 7 battleship. It is not going to be a fun time at all for you. Now, the Rodney is going to be available in both the premium shop and a drop for D-Day containers that is pretty much exclusive to community contributors like myself. So on the 30th of May, you're going to be able to get these D-Day container drops from CCs, and you may get a chance to, and from these containers, you're able to get a chance to get the Rodney from them. You can also roll to get the containers yourself by buying them in the premium shop as well, but you also get them from drops, or you can just buy the ship in the premium shop. You can buy her for $39, which includes a 30-day XP booster, which pretty much means that you get in 30 days where you get increased commander XP, increased free XP, and increased base XP while playing this ship, which is going to be really good if you're like a newer player. Like for $39, you get a tier 7 premium, and you get a lot of experience boosters, which will help you grind out commanders, get more free XP to be able to go up other lines. It's going to be really helping you as a newer player. Now, as part of the $77 Admiral bundle, that includes credits, green boosters, a Rodney flag, signals, a 10-point captain, and the 30-day XP booster. Now, for D-Day containers, her drop rate is going to be pretty low, so I would say just buy her directly if you want her. But if you are going to be getting the D-Day container drops, you can also just try to see if you get it from there. But honestly, if you want the ship, I really wouldn't say buy the D-Day containers. You can just get them for free from the D-Day exclusive drops for CCs like myself. Or you can just buy the ship straight up and you can be able to do it that way. But I would say that the Rodney is definitely worth it. It's a lot of fun to play, and it's a really enjoyable experience at tier 7 and below. You can also take this ship into operations as well and have fun taking her in there and earning credits in there as well. So a little history about the Rodney. The Rodney was the second of the Nelson class BBs to be built. While Rodney would be famous for participating in the operation to sink the Bismarck, she performed many other vital duties like convoy escort and shore bombardments. In fact, the Rodney participated in the Normandy landing, positioning off of Sword Beach to support the British and Canadian forces pushing the island. Now, ultimately being worn out from constant combat and lack of funding post-war, it led to Rodney being decommissioned and scrapped in 1948. Now, that's going to be my review of the Rodney. If you guys have any questions or concerns, definitely let me know in the comments down below. But this is Overlord Bo. Thank you all for watching. If you guys have any questions or concerns, definitely let me know. But yeah, again, I do recommend the Rodney. I think it's a great ship to be added to your ports. And I also think it's a great ship for newer players as well. It's really fun to play. You guys will sure have a really fun time enjoying her.